Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. My name is Justin. This is
This is Derek, and on this chilly evening, we have a very special guest with us tonight.
Hello, I'm on the show. Hello, thanks for having me so much. I'm excited to be here and join your show today.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
I guess I probably I didn't really introduce myself like you asked me to. My name is Peter Bond, and I'm on 10 Very Big Books, a Malazan read-through podcast where I've read the series before, and I'm kind of reading it through with some other friends who haven't read it. So it's over on our podcast feed, and we talk to Steven Erikson sometimes. Come check out the show, and I'm glad to be here. And just told them I was enjoying listening to their show today, and the more the merrier. And I hope you guys are having a great time reading Deadhouse Gates. It sounds like you are.
Yeah, it's been a blast so far.
Yeah, we're definitely having a good time.
It's hard to not continue though. That's my big thing, is being able to actually keep reading, stalling at these chapters for these lengths. So
you mean like you're keen to keep keep reading, but you must record the show.
Right, before. So then that way we don't. I know I've almost done it where we've done it. We've read ahead a chapter before recording, and I, almost introduced something that shouldn't have been in that chapter, but was revealed in a later chapter. So
people don't understand the sacrifice us podcasters make. Every day out there giving it up for the content. It's tough stuff.
This is very true. Yes, very true. It's only going to take us 5 years to get through the series.
Yeah, it's been a long time for us. So God bless you guys. I'm sending you love.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, we thought we would do just kind of a wrap up for the sub book that we just finished, and I think it's something we're gonna probably try to keep doing. I think, right, Justin? Each sub book that we finish, just kind of do a wrap up and reach out to somebody and have somebody come on. And I think we've got this book pretty much planned out, but going forward, we don't really know what the next book will look like, but
we'll worry about it.
It's kind of
2023.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll probably be March or April, I suppose, somewhere around there. But yeah, so we hopefully you've read the series, so hopefully I don't know how much you remember from the first sub book of Deadhouse Gates, but hopefully you can maybe clear some things up for us, or just have a good conversation, anyways.
Well, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Of course, I'll share some stuff, but I wouldn't want to spoil anything for anybody. I think it'll be fun to talk about, and I have a pretty good grasp on what happens in that book, but also I probably haven't read it in 2 or 3 years. So, but I'm excited to hear about it. So what did you guys think? Like, where are you at?
Well, the writing is a little crisper. It's way more crisper than I remember. Like, things just seem to be a lot tighter. And the one big example I have just off the top of my head was the priest of Hood in the prologue, the fly man, I guess you could call him. Just the way that introductory paragraph to that prologue, and thus that book, was just so much tighter and just chef's kiss, I guess I could say, comparatively to Gardens of the Moon. So
yeah, it just really was kind of a kick in the face compared to how Gardens was, and not that I didn't like Gardens, but this was just like, holy shit, like, where did this come from?
What about it? What about it did you find so different? I agree. I find, I don't know if I could articulate it, but I do find the writing in Deadhouse Gates to draw me in more. I don't know if I know why, but I'd be curious if you do.
I think that's just it. It just really drew me in, and it's just the detail to it, and just how the words really painted a picture. For me, anyways, in my mind, I was just like, wow, like this is it was just different, and not in a bad way, and in a good way. It seemed like a different style, I guess.
I would compare it to, like, Gardens of the Moon is like 480 resolution, and Deadhouse Gates is like 1080p. You know, like you have a clear picture, you understand what's going on, but things are just a little fuzzy. You know, but at 1080p, there's just that much like that clarity between the two books. Is I guess how I'm reading it in my mind, whether that makes sense or not. But yeah.
No, I think that's a really great comparison, and I know exactly what you mean. I think in this book, Erikson's style and the way he's approaching the world, it becomes clearer and it's becoming sharper. And I think that's an interesting through line when you talk about the length of the series and Erikson's career as an author.
Right.
Does the writing continue this way all the way through then? I mean, is there anything you would, I guess, like, I don't know if a dip would be the right way to put it, but I mean, it seems like he's setting a pretty high bar for himself. Is that maintained in your opinion?
Wow, great question. And I have to tell you, I think it's a question that many people have different answers to. In my opinion, I think it mostly gets better. It only goes up. And I do think at a certain point it's more marginal changes, and I don't think it's, I feel like it picks up and then it stays really, it starts high, picks up, and then stays very high. But I do think another way to phrase it, outside of just this abstract idea of good or bad, I do think going to what Justin said about doing this comparison to visual crispness or image quality, is that I do more feel like his writing is just more greater realizing the world and story that he's trying to put forth, and that the voice is becoming more refined, and that is reflected in how I engage with the writing and the series. So I don't know. There are some vague thoughts, but I think I've read a lot of different things, and it's always interesting to hear other people's thoughts about it.
Well, I think it's just like, take for example, Iskarel Pust, which granted we're only 5 chapters into his craziness, and I believe that there's a purpose to his craziness, but I feel like if that character would have been in Gardens of the Moon's writing, I don't know if it would have came off quite as well, if that makes any sense.
Well, I guess you led a horse to water, so I must ask then, because I also see that in your show notes here, you have something about a Krupp theory.
Yep.
So speaking of maybe, the type of character, so what is this theory we're getting at?
Okay, so
I want to
yeah.
When Justin came up with this and we talked about it, it just like blew my mind, and I love it so much, even if it's not like true. It's just like headcanon for me.
I just want to get ahead. I will have no comment because but I'm really curious to hear, no matter how good or bad, I will officially have no comment.
Okay. And it's not like I haven't done any like digging on theories or anything on the series, because I'm just afraid I'm going to find something I don't want to see.
Sure.
But this is, Justin, it's just like off the wall, but I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty out there. But so, Peter, you know how Krupp is always stuffing his face in Gardens of the Moon?
Uh-huh.
And then he always seems to be having it goes stuff face, divination dream, and then he wakes up not knowing where the fuck he is, kind of a thing. So I'm curious, and my theory is that like in order for him to have these divinations or these dreams, he has to get so fucking full and lethargic that he passes out in order to have these divinations, to have these dreams.
Well, Justin, I have no comment. I'm afraid I couldn't possibly remark. Okay. But that's an interesting theory. You have.
Yeah.
Have you heard anything like that before?
Well, I know sometimes I've eaten so much that I've kind of waken up on a strange demi-plane and like Kroll's there and we're vaguely speaking about rebirth. So I've definitely been there, done that. But all right. Well, sorry to kind of rope us into that tangent, but yeah, I agree. I don't know. It's inseparable when storylines are introduced, and Iskarel Pust is introduced early in this book, and I don't know. Would he have worked in Gardens of the Moon? Who's to know? Who's to know? What a world.
Right. Do you, having spoken with the author, Mr. Erikson here, do you think that, I mean, how would you anticipate him receiving a question/theory like that?
The eating theory, or
this?
Let's retcon Gardens of the Moon and get a Scarl-Pust in this. we gotta get this character in the story as soon as possible. I think it's an interesting question. I don't really know the relationship Erikson as an author has had to like community theory speculation. I do know Erikson does sometimes read stuff online, or I certainly know he's read some forums stuff before. But what his actual relationship is to that stuff, I don't know. That's interesting. I always think it's authors really fall on this huge spectrum of how much they engage with that type of stuff.
That's fair.
I think most authors would think it would be kind of fun to see what kind of theories people are coming up with, and
sure,
maybe they shoot them down. They're like, no, that's not what I had in mind, or oh, okay, well, maybe that could work. Maybe that's kind of what I thought.
I agree. I feel like most are at like, it's fun up until a point, and then it seems like,
sure,
yeah. But
I don't know. It's just something I thought about as I was reading Gardens of the Moon. It's just how his shtick is always just the constant stuffing of food in his mouth. So I just thought that there had to be some reason for that, which may or may not be true at all. But that's just what led me to think that.
So do we have any Deadhouse Gates theories brewing? Anything you want to share?
We can later on.
Sure. I do have a theory. But yes. Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Cool. I guess so far for us, that going back to the Fly Priest of Hood, that kind of seems to be, for Derek and I, the biggest thing that is the most iconic thing that we can think of so far, as far as the first 5 chapters go. You've read the book.
Yeah.
Are we in for more iconic imagery like that?
Well, I'll give you the annoying answer, which is, unfortunately for me, almost everything in the book is iconic. Okay. That doesn't mean I won't forget a name or two, but just like I feel like the book, especially book 2, when I think about the series, is just filled with all these really moments that really resonated and stick with me. Additionally, it's filled with a lot of this kind of, I don't know, it's almost, there's like a weird beauty to it. Like, I don't know, but I'm really entranced by the type of image you're talking about, like with the fly priest who's like covered at it, and there's this darkness to it, but I'm also drawn and like kind of compelled by it. So that's, I can think of a later scene that I will not allude to, but there is also animals in the scene. That's a vague reference, unfortunately, but maybe people know what I'm talking. Maybe people know what I'm talking about, but it reminds me of when the flies are covering the priest, and I think that's a really beautiful moment as well. So yeah, I think you're in for a real treat.
Lovely. I mean, we kind of knew when we were going through Gardens of the Moon that, everything that the community and people that we talk to who have read the series are always like, yeah, Deadhouse Gates is like the best. So we kind of had, I wouldn't say high expectations, but we had this excitement to read it because we hadn't heard one single bad thing about it. So
yeah, I think it's rare I've encountered this. I've definitely read them, and I've talked to those people, but it's, I think, a minority opinion, and I totally get what you mean. I think I'm unfortunately the cliche Malazan reader who was like so on book 1, and then book 2 was like, this series shreds. I can't wait to read the rest of the books. Which I feel like is a cliche, but that was my experience, So I totally get what you mean with that's what kind of the community talks about.
Gotcha.
I guess on that note, how did you, this is going to feel a little bit out of order, I guess, but how did you, I guess, come across the books, and then how did you get your friends into it, and how did you start your guys' show? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, sure. I'm good going anywhere. I'm going to be curious how you guys found out about the books. I think I found out about them on Reddit maybe, and then I was reading different fantasy series in college, and I would kind of read 1 or 2 or 3 and drop off. Like I think I read the first 5 of Wheel of Time and then kind of just fell out of it. And then I picked up Malazan and had a really great time. And I think, and I guess, I don't know, I've been a part of the community, so to speak, since then. And then how you guys heard about them on the internet, I assume? Or did someone tell you about them?
So I had a roommate that I lived with for a while, and he just abruptly moved out and left a bunch of books and DVDs and things. And so I basically inherited these books. And I had them for a long time, and I never read them. And then Justin and I were talking. He came down to my house when Wheel of Time, the TV show, came out. And we were watching that when it dropped that night, and we were talking about it. I'm like, oh, we should read this book together. And then, well, we should start a fucking podcast. And so we did.
Nice. Yeah, I actually favorited that episode because I want to go back and listen to your guys' Wheel of Time TV takes. But yeah, no, I have to tell you, basically, it was I put not to characterize your experience, but I put about as much thought into the let's start a podcast idea as that, where essentially I was like, I don't know, let's do it. And then I pitched reading these books to Indy and Josh, who I would say are not fantasy fans and don't really, I don't know, have different relationships to the genre. And they were game for some fucking reason that I'll never know. And here we are. We started the show about 4 years ago, and we've just been churning ever through. So
I have listened to your Gardens of the Moon stuff. I haven't gone beyond that, and it does always make me chuckle when I would hear India's like, oh, I love this, and then like the next few minutes, I hate this, and just kind of felt all over the place, and just the honesty on it I liked.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think I don't know, we're not I don't know, books. We're just trying to share our honest opinions and kind of make some jokes, Well, what's that's all we can do, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I don't know. Don't you guys shoot for something similar? Honest opinions and maybe a joke or two, maybe a chortle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's plenty of those. And we'll talk about our first episode. But yeah, definitely. Some good humor. I feel like I'm probably not the one to speak, so take this with a grain of salt. I'm very bad at listening to podcasts. I don't know, I'm much more of a visual person. So I think we just wanted to go into it and have fun, not take it, all like too seriously,
And Justin, how did you end up encountering the books?
Derek.
Oh, yeah. So it really was just this roommate. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so I was on like the 10th or 11th book of Wheel of Time when I came down and watched it, and I finished up the Wheel of Time in February of 2021.
Congrats.
Thank you. I attempted to read it like 3 times before that. Once in high school, but then I started to see when it got interested in women and cars and hanging out with friends and drinking and doing things that
some other stuff came up.
Right, exactly. So but then and then I want to say I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago I tried again. Couldn't even make it through Eye of the World because I don't even remember what. I was going through some shit at that time. So, and then I'm like, fuck it. My life's pretty stable. I'm just gonna fucking read this series because I want to stop thinking about not finishing it.
Sure.
So, yeah. But then Derek pitched it, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm so far removed from any type of anything book related. Like I read some horror books when I was in college, but never any like long-winded series or anything like that. So I guess I'm kind of like newer to fantasy. So Derek was just like, hey, these books I heard were really good. We should podcast about them. Sounds good, man. I want more fantasy anyway, so let's do it.
And it's really surprised. Like every day, honestly, I think about it, like how well we just fit in with each other, because Justin does all the editing and behind the scenes stuff, and he's fantastic at it. And I guess I feel like I'm kind of the PR guy a little bit, and I don't mind doing it. And we just balance each other, and it's been a lot of fun so far. We're almost, well, beginning of March, it'll be a year we've been doing this.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't know how much of this is going in the show. I don't know what your editing style is like, but I'll say it just from a purely business point of view. I mean, I think most podcasts, I think statistically release like 6 or 10 episodes and then never release an episode again, or they don't release episodes weekly or biweekly. So I think the fact that you've done as much as you've done, and the show's very consistent, and like it's a year long, it's just awesome stuff. And I'm glad you guys are enjoying it, and I'm glad you're enjoying the series. So just seems like good vibes,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I guess going back 4 years ago, when you guys were all starting this, and I guess, what was it like just kind of seeing your, I guess, for lack of a better term, followers just slowly increase? You guys have 1,000 followers on YouTube now?
Yeah, we've started putting the podcast on YouTube, so that's grown. Well, a phrase I've used sometimes is that things got really out of hand. Which is, I think, kind of a joking way to say that I feel really blessed and lucky that a lot of people found the show and like what we do, I guess, and be a part of our conversations. But I think more why I say that is because my expectations of the show were really low, and I really basically thought this is kind of a new series. There's only there's like 1 or 2 podcasts that started and then kind of pittered out about it. Like, I would love to start a show and, be a part of this community, and I love podcasts, so let's do that. And when I was pitching the series to Josh in India, I was like, okay, well, I think you should be prepared for the show to be like totally unsuccessful, and that like no one's going to listen to the show, and we're going to put in a ton of work, and that it'll be like, for us and for the sense of accomplishment that we did something, and for our passions, this is not going to become a thing. And the number I said, I was like, for me, the show would be really successful if we had 100 listeners to our episode, like a new episode a year or 2 from now, and then like our second episode had like 200 or 300 listeners. So I guess I was just a complete idiot, or about what I should have expected, or I don't really know, but that's all to say. I don't know. I have. It was a very weird feeling, and I guess I feel mostly a sense of gratitude, and I think that's mostly how I feel. It was not what I expected, for sure, but obviously cool, and welcomed.
Very cool. Very cool. I guess and this is just, again, me being an art nerd, but what the imagery that you came up for the title, or not the title, but the, I guess, album artwork, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
But what is there a story behind that with the wolf? Is it a wolf?
So we actually have different ones for each book.
Got it. Okay.
And so it kind of updates on different ones. So our art right now is going through a very special art phase because we're on Dust to Dreams and we're doing something special with the art. But I think our book 2 art was a horse. Okay. We went with a horse for Deadhouse Gates.
Is it because a horse ate a guy's face off?
That does happen. 100% gets a little bit of a nibble in there. I forget why. I feel like we felt like there's a lot of horses in Deadhouse Gates. I know there's horses in other books, but listen, I stand by it, and you cannot talk me out of it. I love that horse.
That's
fair. I don't know if I saw that. I think the one I see it is there's like a bone, like a leg bone or something. I don't know.
That's the most recent book's art.
Okay.
But it updates every season.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Got it. I did not know that. Okay, cool.
A bit of an art nerd, you say?
Yes.
Sorry, I feel like I don't know if I'm just bringing the energy. I feel like I have somewhat drawn us away from book 1, Raraku. But
no, it's quite all right. I guess most of our format is just in and out,
It's pretty loose.
Eric and I have
loose.
tangents about random shit all the time. Eventually we bring it back in, but I think that it brings a sense of sprinkles some genuinity into the episode. So
just a sprinkle though. You wouldn't want it to be too much.
Just a dash. But yeah, I guess that could be a very good segue back into the book. I guess one of the things that Derek and I kind of had some questions about was Hebrick and Duiker and Hebrick's revised history, whereas Duiker, being the imperial historian, why or potential motivations as to why he would orchestrate his escape from the Otatero mines and why he would be in defense of Hebrick during Hebrick's trial. I mean, is there anything that you can elaborate without potentially giving something away at the end of the book or the series? Or I think it's interesting. It's just it's like this dueling. It's like these dueling historians, But Duiker, for the most part, in what we've read, seems to kind of be on his side, but then the way he writes is not on his side. Yeah.
I guess I would be hesitant to comment on any plot stuff, but I will say I think both are characters I really enjoy, and I think it's one element of how the book, reflecting on history, a common theme in the series, is taking historians and taking a look at how history is actively created to be disseminated by the empire here, and how it works as a social function and how that may relate to, whatever history is, air quotes. And I think both of them are just awesome characters, and getting at this question of how they both might act as historians differently under the same state is compelling.
Okay. So I guess banking off of that, is one of them writing the correct history and is the other not?
Yeah.
I feel like we already kind of know that, though, because Hebrick doesn't have hands. He must have wrote the wrong history.
But Duiker is the imperial historian. How easy would he? I mean, he seems to just kind of very neutral type of guy so far. I could totally see him doing what he's told to do. I mean,
he feels a little bit like a yes man to me, though. Like, he wants to keep his job. He wants to stay alive. Doesn't want to lose his hands.
Fair. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I think this might be one thing we disagree on. Another thing.
It's happening more and more frequently now.
Yes, it is. I guess I just relate it to, modern day textbooks. What is it that they're not including? I relate that to Duiker, whereas Hebrick is kind of like, no, this is the way that it went. Like, this is how I'm documenting it. I'm not leaving anything out. Is kind of the sense that I'm getting, or what and again, I could totally be wrong, but I think this is.
You're 100% I think touching the vibe, and I think it's just it's just one element, and I'm trying to think of. I think there's maybe it's from Esselmont. I don't know, but I think they write or something like, history are the lies we tell ourselves to justify the present. Something like that. I that may be the quote off the dome. You cannot quote me if I'm wrong. I deeply apologize, but I believe it's from one of the Esselmont books. And that's what it makes me think about. So I think it's a really great comparison, Justin, to talk about, to relate it to that type of textbook stuff in our example, because I don't know if we're talking about textbooks in that sense here.
Right.
But it's a very similar thing with the state's relationship to a historical record that probably the state is invested in, for some reason, for totally random reasons.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I always feel like I have an air of skepticism with most things. So yeah, I'm looking probably between the lines, and there may be something there to look at. There may not be, but I think it's an interesting part of some of the imagery and the themes around this book so far is just history,
Yeah, history is a big one for the series, but it's definitely big in this book, as you could tell with several historian main characters in the cast.
Right, yeah. Derek, you want to talk about, I guess, this next? I don't know if you've noticed, but we're touching on like points within the prologue, and then chapter 1, chapter 2, blah blah blah.
Sounds great.
And I guess I don't know that these are just things we kind of spitballed as we were looking through things, so we may not touch on all of them, but
right.
Sure.
Yeah, but I guess our next one relates to Fellison, who seems to be a pretty divisive character from what we've gathered, from what we've heard and that type of thing. But just her whole arc and these lessons that she's, I guess I almost feel hesitant to say forced to learn, but almost that she has to endure. Yeah, what a tough road for this kid. And I know when Justin and I have talked, I just keep getting the sense that things are going to get worse for her before they get better. I think that's kind of one of the few things we agree on. Maybe they don't ever get better at all. I don't know, but just she had a quote, or maybe it wasn't so much a quote, but it was kind of like a self-thought or something like that about, these lessons that she's learning.
Was just
I'm not really sure how to put it into words. Yeah, just the beginning.
Yeah, as she's being like carted to the ships at the end of the prologue, she's having this thought about like, what lesson learns am I going to, something along the lines of that. But
I felt like she, like at that point, I feel like she thought things were still going to be okay. Like, I'm highborn, like I'm going to get through this. And now we see her. I don't know that she's regretting it, but it's almost like she's trying to bury that down. And okay, well, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. It's a lot worse than that.
And I think that like, it's because as readers we weren't expecting that either. Like we kind of had the same mindset as Fellowson does going into it. Like I was definitely unprepared for the chapters that followed that involved her. Like when I think lessons learned, I think like, oh, I should probably change my oil in my car more frequently because this happens, just kind of like preventative life, so to speak. But not anything to that extent of trauma. It just caught me unaware and off guard.
Yeah, interesting to hear your guys' thoughts. It's obviously a really heavy storyline. I personally know I was really affected by it, and I do know some people do find Fellowson to be a divisive character. I have long been really drawn to her storyline, find her storyline very compelling, and it seems like the two of you are, I think naturally responding to the series of traumas visited upon her. And I think what's interesting about the quote you recalled was that the word lesson is used. And I think that's just interesting. What I'm reflecting on is where that mindset comes from, what that mindset means to think of something like that as a lesson, and how that kind of relates to her. So I don't really have any answers there, but it was interesting to listen to hear you guys think. And it's a heavy one, Fellison's one.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think it's just like, and this is one of the things that Derek and I didn't disagree on what is happening to her, but I think that we're disagreeing on like me. I'm coming at it from an angle where it's just don't give into that stuff. Like fight that harder. Hebrick and Bowden, they don't need you to do these things, even though you are, which I understand that mindset too, but just like band up with them and overcome Beneth. Don't let him continue to take advantage of you. Don't let him continue to force you to become a drug addict. Whereas Derek is just like, Beneth shouldn't be such an asshole, kind of a thing. Am I phrasing that right, Derek? I mean, which, I don't think that, neither of us are wrong, so to speak, but it was interesting to just kind of have these different perspectives on this very traumatic experience to read.
Yeah, I mean, as an adult, you should just know better than to take advantage of a child.
Right.
Like it just shouldn't even be a thought.
I guess, do you want to, well, we can leave it at that. And then
I don't know if I have anything else to add, but so
no, it's hard. And I think the last thing that we want to do is, have conversation, that is the word is escaping me, like unprofessional. Like we definitely want to approach this situation with some care and some empathy and gently, I guess,
Yeah, well, I hear you on that. I mean, the series deals with very heavy and adult themes, and I do think trying to approach them respectfully, I don't know, in a comfortable way, in a safe way, is, I think, a really valuable thing. And it's been, I don't know if we've always done it correctly. I don't really have any training in that type of stuff, and I guess, but I do know what you mean about wanting to try and create a professional, I don't know, comfortable space, to try and talk about the subject matter.
Right. Yeah.
Should you think, is this where I should bring up my theory, Justin, or do you want to wait on that?
That's right. I think so. I think it's a good segue.
Okay. So my theory does involve Fellison. So, and it was funny how I came up with this to me because I was listening to one of our previous episodes and we were talking about when Ganoz gets murdered by Sari and he's at Hood's Gate. And Open was talking to him and they're talking about how they're bargaining for his soul and they're going to send him back, but they were going to take someone close in his place. So I think it's going to be Fellison that is taken in his place. And I think that because we find out that Ganoz, Fellison, Tavur, their parents are both dead. And you have what I feel and is estranged sister in Tavur, who's now the adjunct, forsaken the family, devoted the life to the empire. And you have a brother on the other side of that coin, now the man of the family. And then you have baby sister. Well, any brother is going to look out for a little sister. Like, that's just what you do. And so I see conflict coming where I think Tavur will probably kill Fellison. And there was the line where it says that, I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but somebody's going to have to clear the family name. And I think it's basically going to be the Ganoz Paran revenge tour. He's going to have to go after his middle sister to basically clear his family name. Something along those lines is kind of what I'm thinking. And I felt like I don't know that it's necessarily going to happen in this book, but somewhere down the line, I think something will probably happen. And we see, Fellison, she's got these thoughts, survive just the next hour and then the next hour. And I want to see the blood spill out of Tavur like an ocean or something to that effect. And I think we're going to get that, but I think it's going to be reversed.
Well,
that's basically it.
Well, I guess I have two thoughts. First, I have no comment. Of course, there's no way I could. Thank you very much. But I will say, in second regard, I feel a tremendous sense of envy. Sometimes I read these posts online, or I talk to these people who clearly are, and this is my first time speaking to someone on the phone like this, who are this engaged with the text and that they have such a vision of what you're expecting and are thinking about what the future books are going to be like in this detail. That's just so awesome. I feel like for me, it's just it's like a vague, hazy feeling or like an expectation. It's never something as defined as that. And this text is, I think, filled with stuff that really does foreshadow stuff and enrich that. And I think I've noticed a lot of that more on my second time reading through it. But I do know people more like yourselves, perhaps, do engage with the series and really like how the series approaches that,
I would not have caught that. I would not have come up with that if I was not listening to our show. I would have just missed it, but it just happened to line up where the episode of ours that I was listening to and where we were reading, it just kind of perfectly aligned and just kind of a light bulb went off. I'm like, man, it seems to me that and maybe some details will work out a little bit differently, but I feel like generally the idea makes sense to me.
Well, let the record show I have no comment, as I've clearly made known. Okay.
Now you get to endure what I endured with Riga from chapter 1 all the way to 50 pages before Gardens of the Moon wraps up. So, yeah.
What was our next point here, Justin?
Coltane, yeah. And we kind of get the feeling that he's a little bit of a psycho.
Psycho what?
Psycho crazy.
Psycho crazy.
That was a song. No, he just kind of seems like this unhinged, you know?
Like he does not give a fuck.
Right. Like I think of him as and again, this is probably, I don't know if you've ever played the God of War games, Peter, but he gives me this very like, I don't take no shit from nobody and I'm gonna stand my ground no matter what. And yeah, interesting character.
Yeah, here's why I feel like I'm speechless. Are you saying this with any sort of opinion? Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about this, this idea?
I mean, that's a very good question. I don't know if it's necessarily opinion. I think it's just kind of observation at this point. I don't know if I really have. I feel like he's on the wrong side, but I feel like he's on the wrong side for a purpose.
Interesting. And what do you mean by the wrong side?
Well, so from what I understand from the very little that I've read so far in Deadhouse Gates is that the Wiccans were something that Lucene, as far as their warlocks go, had extricated, right? Like extradited. Just, hey, these are no longer allowed. They're all going to die, and then the whole scene with the crows coming back as their bodies were like impaled with pikes outside of the walls of Unta. And now all of a sudden it's just, yeah, we're going to govern, the Empress in Hisar here, or govern with the Empress in Hisar. And then even Bolt, his like uncle, and the conversation with Duiker in like the second chapter, they were talking about Bolt was essentially defending Empress Lucene's actions. So Coltane didn't interject one way or the other. So I get that as a sense of, yeah, he's just going along with it because he believes it or he doesn't. But I feel like there's intention there. I think that I honestly feel like he's just doing it to get back at the Empress and he's just playing along because he was given this opportunity to do so. But whether that's an opinion, I guess that's just kind of what I'm speculating on as far as what we've encountered so far. And with the psycho comment, I feel like that's totally doable because he's just crazy enough to do it.
Is that what you feel, Derek?
I don't really know what I think of him. I think he's crazy. like he's the badger that you don't want to let out of the garbage can because you don't know what he's gonna do. He's the loose cannon, right? Like, I mean, he just could go on a killing spree or not. I don't know. But I guess as far as Justin saying he feels like he's on the wrong side, I can see that, but I don't know really one way or the other quite yet. Just because we had a kind of an introduction to him, and now we haven't seen him in a bit, so I don't really know.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was interesting. Yeah, I was just asking about the wrong side comment for clarity, but it was interesting to hear what you meant by it. Yeah, of course, with all things, I have no comment. I could never. There's no way. But I myself am a big Coltane fan, and I find him and his story very compelling and memorable. So
I look forward to reading that.
Yeah.
What do we have next here?
Rylandris.
Mappo and Acarium. Oh yeah, there's the little standoff with Rylandris. Just that's a sweet fucking name for one. But yeah, I guess just this was kind of one of our other points with somewhere down the line. But we've got the divers and the soul taken, and I know like one of my big questions is so like the soul taken, like we see the one like splits up into 6 jaguars or whatever, wolves. But I'm curious what happens like if you kill one of them. Does he lose a little bit of himself? Or is it not a big deal unless all of them die? There's a lot of questions there for me, and I hope we find out more about that because I feel like it's going to be frustrating. Like if I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
no comment?
I have no comment. Of course, there's no way I could never. However, there are a lot of divers in this book. It's actually if you're looking for divers, this is a great place to find them. You're gonna love the way you look. And they're fun. I don't know, soul taken as well. So fan of divers.
Okay, cool. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was thinking of Iskerl. I don't know. How he just reminds me of Professor Farnsworth. He's just a goofy guy.
Huge Professor Farnsworth energy for sure.
It makes sense.
Good news, everyone.
That was good.
Thank you. I thought we were both very impressed with the Denrabi, and while Fiddler and company are their journey to the Seven Cities. I thought that part was really cool, and we were both in that moment. I remember we were like, "What is a Denrabi?" And then this is one of the very few times where we typed that word into Google and looked at some images of the Denrabi, and it looks pretty fucking cool.
They're really cool. In my mind, it's like I have a very physical fear because the description of how they kill the ships and stuff, it just like strikes such fear into my body.
Yeah, like I wouldn't like. I think of like a giant squid in a submarine. Like those stories about a squid taking down a submarine.
Sure.
Like, no thanks.
Yeah, it was. I guess it just kind of goes back to some of the things that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, and just that crispness, that clarity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind. I was gonna say something really dumb, but I held my tongue.
I say dumb shit all the time.
I got to keep up my reputation. I've never said something foolish in my life. Anyway,
I am your counterpart then, because I say a lot of dumb things.
Me too. I really felt like, let the record show, the shoe was on the other foot. Our show gets emails all the time complaining about our pronunciation of stuff, and me in particular has received a lot of complaints, but it's just, that's how I read it. And, that's just, I follow my heart, but today I was listening to your podcast and I was like, guys, you're saying it wrong. You got to fix this pronunciation. So I really felt like I finally really understood where a lot of listener emails were coming from today.
Which words were that? Sorry.
Well, see, I'm looking at your next point here, and this is where we were at. Can you see that?
Yeah. Are you wanting us to say it, or?
Well, I don't know how we can proceed, but I'm just saying this is what pinged me the most, I will say.
Got it. Okay.
But I strongly encourage you to use your own pronunciations and kind of refuse to take my listener feedback seriously. That's what I would encourage you to do.
Well, maybe we'll hear it and we'll be like, oh yeah, well, we're idiots. We should have been saying it this way.
Well, no. Now I feel like I cannot tell you it because I would be giving up my principled position that everyone should say it how they want to say it. So God bless you. Go with the stars.
Dryjana?
Dryjana is the name, and that is how I say it as well, my good friend.
I think you're lying to me.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll just keep saying it, Dryjana.
I have bad news for you, because when I listen to your stuff on Deadhouse Gates, I will find out how you say it.
No, thwarted.
You're gonna have to block all those episodes now.
All right. Just don't listen to the podcast. This is the first time I'm ever going to say this. Okay. Please do not listen.
Oh, good shit. Good stuff. All right. I guess swinging back around, and we'll get to the terrible pronunciation in a second here. But wanted to kind of, I guess, I don't really even know, but just I get the sense that Quickfen and Kalam have some ulterior motives here, and I feel like that's pretty apparent in the story so far. But it's just there's this thing that's on the tip of your tongue and you don't really know what that is. I know that they're set out to essentially take out Lucine, which I thought was kind of premature. I wasn't really I was expecting it, but I wasn't expecting it so soon, kind of a thing. But I feel like as things are starting to kind of develop with Apsalar and Cotillion, so to speak, that whole premise, I feel like Quick Ben and Kalam maybe were anticipating something like that happening, and therefore some of the conversations that Crocus and Fiddler are having around her specifically are potentially going to come to fruition. No comment?
No comment. Of course, I could never. But I do think you've made some interesting observations. Sorry, I just don't want to. I don't know how to respond there without, I feel, revealing other stuff. So.
No, that's fair. We're a podcast that does not want spoilers. So we honestly, from the bottom of our heart, we really appreciate it.
But at the same time, we put you in these positions where you have to, you cannot confirm or deny.
Right, which doesn't give us any clarity. But I mean, I've listened to, I think I'm on episode 7 now. Took a little bit of a hiatus from our episodes. And I know that just going through and listening to, the very beginning of the Gardens of the Moon, I'm like, oh my God, Justin, God, you suck. That was totally off. That was way off. You're an idiot. That's not what it was at all. So it's a stark contrast, which is totally fair. And while in the moment, I enjoy speculating. But yeah.
Listen, as someone who has for years now listened to my friends make predictions about the book whilst knowing whether they are correct or not, I would say the record is that a scary amount of the time you're actually dead on. And then the rest of the time, you're 100%, you're not even close. I feel like there's never been a middle ground over there. It's either like they actually just perfectly called it way downfield, or they're just writing weird fan fiction that has nothing to do with the fucking book. So just, I don't know, keep that. I don't know what you will make of that. That's been my experience.
Just Raffo, huh?
Yeah. And then maybe sometimes you're right. Who knows? I was almost always wrong. Let the record show. Any idea I ever had about where the series was going was wrong. So that's where I went.
Fair, it's still fun though, even just to speculate on it. So
100%.
Well, it's because at this point you have a pretty, for the most part, a good understanding of the majority of the major players. And even like I remember going back to when Duiker was first introduced, and I'm like, I can't relate to him because I don't know him. But at this point in the story, like I'm very familiar with him. Like I feel if I were to go back and read those first 5 chapters, that it would be different for me as far as that character goes. And swinging back around to the Dryjana conversation, and your fans letting you know about that. I mean, what do I accidentally slip up? Instead of Whiskey Jack, I said Whiskey Dick. What was the other one?
Aslick Rel.
Aslick Rel instead of Malik Rel. It's Aslick Rel.
Both of them are pretty good though. So I feel like I would have never written in because that's funny as hell, and you get points for that.
Sweet. Cool. I'll take it. I feel like there was another one. I don't remember though. I feel like there was another one. I
can't remember anything.
To be honest though, I've learned so much helpful stuff and people have taught me so much through the feedback that it's almost always welcome. So even when it is like, oh, actually you're saying the name of that goddess wrong, it's like, so that's all to say, it is not technically Aztec Rel, it's Malik Rel. Just so you know, just a heads up.
I don't know how I got that wrong all this time, but
damn.
No worries. Just wanted to correct that pronunciation real quick.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess
next up on our list of stuff here.
The Dryjana. Now I'm gonna be self-conscious now every time I read it.
I'm sorry if I did not mean it in that way. I thought I was trying to make fun of myself. You should not feel self-conscious.
No, it's totally cool. It's just me.
Well, I think you and I pronounce it a little bit different from each other, Justin. So
how do you say it? I feel like we say it the same way.
Well, I think I say Dryjana and you say, I don't know what you say, I guess, but in my head it sounds different when you say it.
Sounds good.
Now I feel like I'm doing that thing where you're just kind of are saying something so much that you're lost on what it means, and So I feel like I'm so in my head about it now. So pronunciations.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. I mean, it would be a different story if we weren't afraid of spoilers, but I would totally be doing and looking up how to pronounce these on the Malazan wiki or wherever. But I'm just trying to stay in this bubble of I only know what I've read. I'm not gonna go look for anything else. So
my official thought is that that's exactly the way to do it. I almost never Googled anything, and that was almost always the right choice. And I will just say, sometimes when you Google stuff, it'll just be like name dies or name blah blah blah. It is just the spoiler just comes up right next to it. Do you know what I mean? So like, I know 100%. I know I've been there where I've Googled and I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad I knew this character, bloody blahs, so it's a dangerous world out there, so well, okay, you know what I mean. There's a lot of spoilers on the internet, and I think you probably have the right policy. In my opinion, that is just how I prefer to read books, but, I know other people don't mind spoilers that much.
fair enough.
What should we talk about? The red blades and red swords?
I think we were talking about the boy in the mercy that Dryjana gives the young boy, the seer, the malnourished seer.
Sure, if you want to call it mercy.
Right, yeah.
I don't know, it just seems like just another example of how brutal this world is, where it's assumed that this child's parents are murdered for some reason, and now he's starving, and he's starving so much that his belly's bloated, and then he has, I don't know what you want to call it, but spasm or seizure or something, and he has this like vision,
right,
and then he dies, and then they say that, oh well, that was merciful. How was that merciful? Kid suffered basically all his life.
Which, and I know we talked about this in that episode, which I feel like is a representation of the gods' cruelness within this environment or this world, is that they're kind of assholes, or that because like I think they make a mention of like the gods granted him mercy or something like that, and I don't remember specifically, but I feel like it had to do something with what they just witnessed, mercy, and the gods, or yeah.
Well, I guess sure, yeah, he's not suffering anymore, but why did he have to suffer all that much to begin with? Like,
right.
I mean, I guess every kid's going to lose their parents at some point or another. I mean, that's the way it should go. A parent shouldn't have to lose their kids, but that doesn't make it any less easy, even as an adult when you lose your parents. But okay, now on top of that, this kid, he was blind, right?
Yep.
And starving, and basically just became an object to something. So I don't know. It wasn't one of my favorite things to read. Just, I mean, yeah, it was rough.
I feel like this is, as far as the gods pertaining, I feel like this is adds to the foreshadowing that we already have a sense of.
Foreshadowing to
just the gods and their ways, so to speak, just their way that they see people, things that they're just in the way, or
foreshadowing that life's a bitch and then you die. I mean, that's kind of what I got out of it. So, I mean,
that's a good.
It doesn't have to be that way.
I guess for me, I wish I could articulate it a bit better, but it's been a minute since I've read that chapter, so I'm not exactly sure what my thoughts are on it particularly, because I haven't read it in a while. But I feel like it has, whatever that comment was, made it seem like this is what the gods do, and they take pleasure in it because they're cruel assholes. So, and I mean, with the one god, with Opon in Gardens of the Moon, they're definitely going at it for their own motivations, selfish motivations, so to speak. What specifically that is, I don't know at this point. I can only really speculate, but yeah.
I just kind of keep wondering, like, if you're already a god, what more do you need? Right. What more do you need? Are you jockeying for position? I mean, maybe, I guess, you see that a god can die, I guess. But I mean, if you just stay in your lane, you're basically immortal, right?
Yeah, but that's boring.
So getting killed is a better option.
Add some excitement to your life.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that more specifically, what Trajana says: two fountains of raging blood face to face. The blood is the same. The two are the same, and salty waves shall wash the shores of Raraku. The holy desert remembers its past. Now, there's a lot to dissect in that particular section, and I feel like it has something to do with history, but I also feel like it has something to do with Mappo and Icarium.
I'm interested to hear more, but I just must share that unfortunately now I'm sitting here like the chump I am, thinking maybe I should read the books a third time, because the prophecy's just hitting really hard over here, knowing about the book more. And I'm sure I enjoyed it the second time I heard it, hit it hard today. So just struck by that, made me want to reread the book. So how are you relating this to Mappo and Icarium specifically?
So, I mean, Icarium at this point, as far as we know, has lost his memories, but we know from Gardens of the Moon that he's like this maker of mechanisms, right? And mechanisms that have to do with time is not the right word, but like, he essentially made a calendar, right? If I'm recalling, he made some type of seasonal calendar.
Yes, a timekeeper.
Right. So I feel like that's interesting because memories are essentially time. So he's a maker of mechanisms that record or show people time, or a certain amount of time between two events, or whatever you want to call it. But then what we know of him is, in this book, he has lost his memories. And Derek and I have kind of deduced that Mappo is kind of at this point where he can't really tell Icarium what's happening because Icarium's just going to forget it. So I think it's just in that prophecy that was stated, the holy desert remembers its past. I just, for whatever reason, that triggered something with, Icarium and regaining his memories potentially, or ascending via the path of hands and this convergence. It's just, I think the big difference between like Deadhouse Gates and Gardens of the Moon is Gardens of the Moon was very linear with a lot of the information and the character arcs and the stories that just kind of like eventually popped into place. Whereas with Deadhouse Gates, there's all these like little itty bitty tidbits of information that relate to each other, but you can't quite make sense of it, at least for me anyway. So for whatever reason, I feel like those two are connected. I guess I wish I had more, but the information is just not all of the dots are there yet.
I feel like this is kind of just coming to me as you're talking, Justin, and maybe we've talked about this a little bit too, but like we know Raraku was an ocean at one point, or
Right.
a sea, whatever. So maybe it will become a sea again, an ocean again, and that's when he will get his memories back.
Right, like a wave of memory. Yeah. I guess that's just kind of my initial thoughts. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll have to find out.
Raffo, you may say. Or in other words, I have no comment. I could never. Thank you.
Just as good.
I'll take it. I guess wondering your thoughts on red blades versus red swords. I feel like Derek and I have deduced that they are essentially the same, but yeah, I guess.
Well, I feel like this bothers me more than it bothers you, Justin, but yeah, why the hell call them two different? If they're the same fucking people, just call them one fucking name. Like, why do we need to have two things?
Oh, Derek, you fool. Don't you know that in the Malazan Book of the Fallen, everything must have at least 2 to 3 other names that you can call the thing. One name may never do. They must have at least several monikers and nicknames and then regional variants. It's like I'm saying it as a bit, but it's just like, this is how it is. And I think it's probably reflecting the actual nature of language and how the world actually works. But I definitely know sometimes I'm like, okay, but what if actually there was just one name, period? That would make me, the reader, a little more oriented. But yeah, I believe they're the same organization. Let the record show. I could be wrong, but I think that is probably one of those actual naming things. And also, Derek, you're not a fool. I was doing a bit. I'm sorry.
It frustrates me, and I don't know why. Like, there's no reason for it to, but I'm just like, just one. Give me one. I don't need both. I mean, call vanilla. Like, that's it. Like.
I hear you.
I feel like there's some type of intention, as I do with everything. So,
well, I know we kind of talked about maybe thinking that it's, one is kind of what the Malazans call them versus the locals or whatever, that type of deal. But
right,
maybe there's something to that.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. But I mean, if I can do anything to help give you clarity, I will definitely pursue that. Fiddler and the seashell that was given to him by Kimlock, and potentially the Kimlock Kalam history. Is this something you can comment on, or
I definitely have no comment. I'm sorry. And what sucks too is, no, you know what? I can't. I won't even say anything. No, I'm so sorry. I can't even say what sucks. But it's not anything actually bad. Let the record show. If I said it, I think I would spoil it. But I'm having a great time. Let the record show.
Got it. Okay, all right. Well, I guess we'll just move on to the next thing.
And this is one where you and I disagree quite a bit. Like, we're about to throw down on this. Like, we would have a fight. We're both ready to die on our own hills.
Fascinated.
Except it's more a wager, a pie in the face.
There is a wager on it. Yes. One of us is going to get a pie in the face, and just so you know, it's going to be Justin.
Fuck you! It's going to be you.
No, it's going to be you.
Go ahead. Explain.
So, what we mightily disagree on is Kalam gets the book Dryjana from Mebra, and so Justin thinks it's a fake. I don't. He brings this book out to the desert. He meets the Shaikh, and she gets her head blown off. So she's dead for now, but she's coming back. She's gonna resurrect, or the whirlwind's starting. I don't believe that it's a fake, because there's the storm at the end of the chapter that comes up, and I don't know. I feel like this is all exactly as it was supposed to happen, and that we're going to see more of the Shaikh somehow. That basically Justin's just going to get hit in the face with the pie is what it boils down to.
I don't think so. Dude, Mebra, why would he just hand over the whirlwind to Kalam, who he knows is going to be successful in his quest, when clearly he's working for the Red Blades? It's purely just to draw the Red Blades out so that he can be tracked, and whatever can be killed, and the Shaikh can be killed.
Part of the plan, Justin.
Like, why would they risk giving them the actual book in the event they didn't get there in time?
Doesn't matter.
All I know is I for one will be waiting for the video of the pie on face. So I hope there is some follow through.
There will be. We live about an hour away from each other ish, so we'll see. Maybe we can even work it out where the one gets to pie the other one in the face.
Yeah,
drives an hour just to pie him in the face.
just for that, and
turns right around.
So is the winner driving to the loser, or is the loser driving to the winner?
All right, you got to drive an hour out to me. I'll buy you in the face, and then you got to drive away. See ya.
There you go. Yeah. Sounds good. So winner has to drive to the loser.
It'd be worth it.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it.
Well, maybe we'll go grab a beer afterwards.
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to clean your face off first.
You want me to show up? Oh, no. I'm not going to put this on me. I'm not putting that in the universe. You mean you want to show up with cream all over your face?
It's going to be you. You're just wrong.
Whatever, dude.
If only there was some way to find out. Tune in next week, baby.
Well, that's just the problem, because we have read the first chapter of the Whirlwind, and there's there's conflicting information as far as which way things may go, I feel like.
See, I feel like the whirlwind is in the heart of the people. It's the heart of the people.
Just like it was in the heart of the starving child that died.
No, that was the gods' mercy.
It's going to fizzle out, Justin. It's fizzling out.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to keep reading.
It's
we
the only
can't.
choice we have.
We can't until we record this next episode, so...
Yeah, I know.
You're only stalling your demise.
Do you know what?
We'll see about that.
Maybe I should get out of here, and then you guys should get on to it if we're really going to get as to the resolution of this whole pie situation as soon as possible. So
well,
thank you so much for having me, and it was a great time being on the show. Joking.
Yeah, of course.
We're at least 2 weeks away from any sort of resolution, so
we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, chapter 6 is there's a lot of shit that happens. So yeah,
there was quite a bit.
Yeah, there's gonna be lots to talk about. But anyway, moving on.
I guess we have my theory about Moby.
Yeah, bring her in.
Moby, I think so. I have just this itch that I think Mamet somehow put himself into Moby. I don't know. It's just like Moby seems a little too weird, I guess, with everybody. Where I just feel like there's something more to him, and we know Race, took over Mamet and got blown up. So maybe Mamet got the hell out of there and put himself into Moby, and he's just flying around that way.
Or the other side, the other thing that I had thought of, which may or may not be true. I'm not as convinced as I am with the book. But so Baruch wrote a treatise about Boak Rala and like mages and magic and stuff. Well, Baruch, we know, is in the Cabal with Mamet. So who better to lay his mastery of the Boak Rala as mage pets to Mamet, who could have potentially, put the soul of either Crocus's parents in Moby, and that's why Moby seems to be so attached to Crocus and not really willing to leave his side, so to speak. Yeah, that was just the other side of that. Whether that's true or not, I don't really care. But I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I guess this one I am less defensive about, but I still think there's a chance that somehow maybe Mamet's inhabiting Moby's body.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 95% I'm on board with what you're saying. I think it's just the 5% where I'm like, what? It could be. So.
Yeah, it's just kind of well, what's the point right now? I mean, obviously, if that is the case, the payoff will be later. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe Absalar dumps his ass for somebody else. I mean, and he gets alone and needs his uncle for comfort in his time of need.
Could be.
I guess the other thing that maybe you can make sense of, and maybe you can't, but Mappo, during some of his what we're thinking were flashbacks, a lot of nameless ones came up, and I guess I can't for anything make heads or tails on what exactly or what that could be. It just kind of seems to be this thing that I'm sure has purpose, and I'm sure will probably get revealed at some point or another, but it's sticking out, and I don't have a hammer.
Yeah, well, of course, I have no comment. I could never. But I will make one small comment in that you are, I think you are correct, and it is something that will kind of be a through line, and you will learn more about. So I think you're right to pick up on it. To be honest, I have no idea when you learned whatever in that storyline, but that is a part of it. So for sure.
But they could,
that was.
Sorry.
Oh, I know that was kind of one of the things that kind of confused me because I was never really sure if it was like a voice he was hearing and that's who the nameless ones were, or yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a weird deal, but that one I kind of struggled with. So yeah, it'll be nice to get some clarity and resolution there whenever we get to it.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the things that I really enjoy about Erikson's writing is the fact that because in your example, Derek, is that because it is confusing and I'm confused as well. I feel like just with that alone makes it more memorable to you, so that when eventually that payoff comes, there's that direct correlation between you feeling confused and then that aha, you know? So I feel like with one book, I was very, very satisfied with a lot of the ahas.
Mm.
Um, Deck of Dragons and Kalam being at the center, surrounded by High House Death and potentially revealing his mission. Now, I guess when I look at the Deck of Dragons, when I'm interpreting them, I look at them literally like, oh, okay, so the rope of High House Shadow is surrounded by High House Death, so I'm immediately going to Cotillion is involved in some way, shape, or form. Whereas it's kind of came to my attention that being that Kalam is also an assassin, that he, or former assassin really, is that card, even though it is the rope, the assassin of Shadow Throne, that is the correlation, is that they're assassins, not necessarily that like Cotillion is involved in some way, shape, or form. So, I mean, I don't know if there's a right way to look at that or if it's just supposed to be variable.
I mean, I think you're, yeah, I guess my main thought is you sound like way better at interpreting some of this stuff your first time through than I was. I definitely know essentially they were all gibberish until the second read through. And then even then they're like, I kind of was messy. So, to be playing with it that much is really cool. Derek, are you engaged with it that much as well, the Deck of Dragons readings?
Justin does a lot better job of picking up on these subtleties and that type of thing than I do. So it's whenever I get to listen to him talk about these things, I always really enjoy it and try to pay attention to what he's saying, because he's really good with that type of stuff where I don't think I am so much. I probably wouldn't pick that up.
Well, I'm more similar to you, so yeah, it's cool.
Okay. Because I thought it was interesting that the formation of the cards themselves were converging around Cotillion, and so we know Iskarel Poost is some type of something for High House Shadow, so it made me feel like High House Shadow is at the center of this convergence, and there's all this death surrounding whatever is going to happen or take place, which we've seen a fair amount of dying so far, so that could be related, it could not be related. I just thought that everything, the way that it was written, was just alluding to something, but again, there's those pieces that we have that we just haven't made solid connections with.
Well, of course I have no comment, but I guess we'll see.
We'll just see. You want to talk about Mappo and the corrupted warning?
Yeah, so when they're down in this basement, and they kind of have a moment where they just kind of stop dead in their tracks, and they feel this warren, but they can't quite put their finger on it. They think it's Tistiandi, but then they think, well, they don't know of any Tistiandi on this continent ever, but they also don't know what other elder warren it could be, and that type of thing. And it appears they find this gate where this convergence is supposed to happen. Yes, the Path of Hands, and yeah, I don't know. There was a lot there. It was kind of overwhelming a little bit, and something also that just seemed to come pretty early on in the book, if this is actually what everybody's searching for. I don't know if I did that justice or not, but yeah.
Well, and I guess I'll explain my theory around this too. So, and I know this is probably way out in left field, but again, going back to just my artistic brain, right? You've got the Tistiande, the Starvalad Galen, is that what, and the Corralled Yeah, I can't remember specifically, but those two Warrens, the Starvalad they kind of commandeered from dragons, from what I understand. But the other one, the Corralled Galen, yeah, they, from what I've gathered about Anamander Rake, is that the Tistiande were very upset when the Queen of Dark allowed light to live, or to be existing. And my thought is so you've got light, you've got dark, you put them together and they create shadows, right? So high house shadow. So I'm wondering if it was just unbeknownst to anybody that this Warren existed because of these two things: high house dark allowing light to thrive, them creating this unknown Warren, and then high house shadow was able to kind of take it on as their own. Is my way out of left field theory, because it makes sense to my brain.
Interesting stuff. I of course have no comment. I could never. But yeah, I actually no, I'm done. I'm sorry. I can't even fake something to say. I know that's not helpful for us making a podcast right now. I know it's not helpful for me to say this so much, but sometimes I gotta hold myself back, you know?
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I feel like it's actually good because it kind of lets us know, like, hey, maybe we're on the right track, but maybe we're not too, and you don't want to give it away one way or the other. And so I'm fine with that answer, and it yeah, I mean, I get a little chuckle every time you say it, so it doesn't bother me at all.
No, not at all.
But I can't wait to find out one way or the other.
Yeah, it's definitely making me want to read on, but yeah, we'll get there.
So it was nice chatting. I'll get out of here. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
No, it's joking.
I guess, whether you want to or not, it's at least for me, it's subtle confirmation that, we're looking in the right direction. But again, what it specifically has to do and what more, the endless possibilities. And I just think that, like, I'm really loving this series so far, and I've only read.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear.
1/5 of the series, so, or that's not what I meant. One book and 1/4 of another one. Yeah,
we're getting there, one chapter at a time.
That's
one
right.
One chapter at a time.
That's right.
We had some kind of realizations. We've had one really big chapter that just kicked our ass because it took us 3 days to record it, and it was about 3.5 hours after Justin got done editing it. So it was a bastard for sure. It was a tough go.
Yeah, we've been there. For a while, we tried to not release any episodes longer than an hour. So actually, the first season, like, we are just blasting through because we were trying to keep the episodes short. And then that kind of really slackened up. And then definitely sometimes you just have these huge chapters and so much happens and there's so much you want to talk about. Yeah, it can be hard, but I'm glad we go longer than an hour now. So
I know I think. Go ahead, Justin.
I was just gonna say, I almost feel like our longer episodes are our biggest hits. Like the prologue episodes and the episodes that are the longest end up having the most views on all of our platforms. So
I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I do know sometimes I do like a lengthy podcast that I can kind of cuddle up into and fall asleep, kind of like a big cozy one,
Yeah. I have a hard time imagining people falling asleep to my voice, but
then you can just not think it's you and that it's me, Justin. So if that'll put your mind at ease.
Yeah, I was.
Oh shit.
Let me just take that one for you.
That's not all I think about.
That's really good. That's really good.
I think we've been warned that there's some like 100-page chapters and stuff where, I mean, if we run into something like that, I'm not sure what we're going to do. We might have to split that up, but
yeah, I don't know. I know what the longest chapter is, I think. I don't know exactly what the page count is. It probably depends on the edition. But yeah, there are some pretty big chapters, especially once you get towards the end of each book, those ones really run pretty long usually. So it's tough. It's tough making Malazan podcasts, am I right?
It's we're doing the God's work. So.
We're doing the God's work, yeah.
That's right.
Somebody has to. We may as well suffer a little bit and do it. So
that's exactly. It's suffering. Yeah, that's right.
No, this is mercy, Derek.
Oh, is that what it is?
Maybe. I got nothing. I'm not. Yeah, we're good.
Well, I get to drink a beer and talk to you, so it's not so bad.
But yeah, that's fair.
Oh, how sweet.
I need to get on the whole beer drinking thing when we talk, because that one episode where you were pretty blitzed. Well, you weren't blitzed, but you were pretty buzzed. You were coming out of your shell quite a bit. You were making some really funny shit. So,
well, should we get back on track?
I suppose, yeah. I guess. Do you remember or recall the I guess battle vision with Sormo Enoth at the holy ground outside of Raraku, and Culp and Duiker were there? I guess, do you remember your initial thoughts on how fucking cool that section was?
I agree with you that it's very cool. I don't know if I have a real vivid memory of when I first read it.
That's fair.
But yeah, I think it has a lot of resonance then, and that idea and that imagery, I think, follows me when I reflect on other parts of that book and those storylines. So
that's so okay, because we've got divers all over in that, and they're fire ants and wasps,
rats.
So rats, the fuck, do they just get to choose what they want to be then? Can you answer that at least, or no? Is that spoiler territory?
Well, I guess maybe I'll spoil this and say I don't have a clear answer. So,
okay.
I don't know if that's going to spoil for you anything, but that I don't know if I could speak to that. But
okay.
I'm also not the most details focused individual sometimes. So if there was some detail I missed, it's very believable.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
Okay. Is it going to be as subtle as, from what I understand, as subtle as Apsalar's ethnicity, if that makes sense? From what I understand, the way that she's described as far as where she's from is very small. And I feel like we probably have missed it already.
Is she not from Itkokan? Isn't that where she's from?
Yeah, but I feel like it was, I guess, told. Do you remember this, Derek? Mora was explaining that Erikson,
she's Asian.
Yeah, or
a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't know if I feel like that would be a spoiler or anything.
No, that's not a spoiler. I'm just saying that from what Mora made it sound is that it was it was a really subtle hint to her ethnicity.
Oh,
so I'm just relating
totally missed it.
The subtlety with the divers. You may get your answer, and it just may be something that is really subtle.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think it is different than that. I think the comparison to the real world and how that might relate to Itkokan or Quan Tali or Li Hang or something like that, that connection I think is of a different kind, because I feel like it's I don't know the word. It's about our reality intersecting with that, whereas I think the divers thing is within the world of the text. Do you know what I mean?
Got it. Okay, fair enough. That makes sense.
Yeah. So
I guess we're coming up on kind of the big things about this particular subbook, in that it's revealed that Apsalar can harness Cotillion skills, and now she was able to recall memories that couldn't be hers, and were ultimately dancers. And the reveal that Shadow Throne is Emperor Kellenved. I know that we just had an episode about this particular chapter, where all this came about. And I think about it almost, well, quite frequently, just how surprised I was to read that just barely into the second book. I mean, do you remember your reaction to that information, or do you remember any of the thoughts when you came about that? Or
100% I remember it, because as I've alluded to many times, I'm dumb. Never to treat me seriously. So I was not one of these whip smart readers who picked up on Gardens of the Moon about this Emperor thing. So when it came to book 2, really hit me, and I was like just totally floored by it. Had an awesome time. So I have a really vivid memory of that. And I don't know. I know some people pick it up in the first book. I didn't, but I had a great time. And to be honest, when I reread the first book, knowing it, I was like, it's so obvious. It's laid out right in front of me. But that was not definitely my first experience. So I don't know how. I didn't know if you guys had put that together in book 1, but I did not.
I didn't. I don't think you did either. Not to like shit on you, Justin, but I don't think you did either.
No,
I don't think it's
didn't.
Shitting on thing, but
I didn't think that they were dead though. Like I didn't think that they were gone. I thought that they were still out there doing something, but I never would have anticipated them to be Shadow Throne. That completely eluded me, that connection there. But now, like as that's revealed, all of chapter 1 is just like rushing in through memory, and I'm like, oh my god, makes so much sense. Because I remember when that's the first chapter that we read in this book, not knowing or having any expectations, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? And just kind of going back to what I mentioned earlier, that payoff, that aha moment, where like everything just brings you back to that moment when you were like so damn confused as to like what was going on. It just clicked, just all made sense. I like that. I like that shit.
Oh, it's so satisfying.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I know. I remember because I read that chapter first of the two of us, and I was really excited because I told you I read it, and I'm like, "You're gonna love it." And then you text me, you're like, "Oh my god, like, what the hell?"
Yeah.
So it was. I didn't see it coming, but it was welcome for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That was so cool. It was cool. I feel like that was the last of our notes, sir. We kind of talked about the other two.
Shaik already.
Yep, the pie that you're getting in the face. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Remember that conversation?
You. Yeah, I guess I can't really think of anything else here. Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to get our summaries done here for next week and try to get the next chapter done so we can start reading this book again.
Right. I've got a good feeling that won't happen until after the new year. So
it's possible.
Yeah. I guess, Peter, do you have anything that you can recall that is distinct or specific, non-spoilerish from the first 5 chapters of this book that you found yourself really enjoying, or just, even just a small piece of whatever? Yeah, I don't know. Something.
Distill your Malazan wisdom upon us.
Yes.
Well, I certainly have no wisdom, but what I would say is I have a really vivid memory of reading the beginning of Deadhouse Gates and where I was both times. I think it's just, I find that book so engrossing, and those chapters are the introduction to a lot of storylines that I really care about and that really resonate with me, and characters that I think about. So, and I think one that probably stands out most is following Felison in those beginning chapters and her storyline there. So yeah, that's what I would say. It's definitely for me a really memorable section. And when you were like, "Hey, do you want to talk about this part of Deadhouse Gates?" I'm not trying to slam part 2 of book 7, but I don't know if I have like a real vivid memory off the dome of what's happening there. I probably could come up with something if I thought of it, but the start of book 2 is right there, and it's a really great place. So I appreciated being able to talk about these chapters, and I look forward to hearing you guys traverse through Deadhouse Gates and hopefully onward.
We'll definitely be going onward. I mean, we both love doing this. We both have kind of agreed that, not kind of have agreed. We both have agreed we're in this for the long haul. We want to keep doing it. It's just fun to do, and it's something I think we both look forward to every week. And just sharing this journey with whoever happens to listen.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And you know, we've definitely kept doing it because we're having a fun time, and I think that's a big part of it. And you know, there's a lot of books though, so you know, I'm sending the power from all the way over at book 9. I'm just sending the love back towards book 2. You know, so
what do you remember, or can you recall your co-host's reaction to the beginning of this book? Did they share in the same light, or?
I think someone was slow to warm up to the book. I forget who. But I also think my memory is that there was some disorientation with switching continents and kind of the main cast of characters. But I think most of us have a positive opinion of Deadhouse Gates, but I think I like it more than some of my other co-hosts, I would say. But I don't think anyone was really down on the book.
Got it.
From my memory. Okay, this was you cannot quote me. This was several years ago.
I'm sure we'll be in the same boat when we reach book 9. So yeah. How's it feel to be like nearing the end? Like,
wow.
That's gotta be like,
if I may be honest, it's really exciting for us, as you could imagine. And, you know, it's been several years. You know, it feels like the end of a really long, you know, journey. And that's really exciting. And, you know, I don't know. It's taken a long time. And definitely I was not always sure we were going to get there. So, yeah, I'm absolutely stoked. Although, and listen, I've been feeling this way since we started book 9, but we still have like another, you know, we've got dozens of episodes left. We got like another 15 episodes, you know, 1,500 pages to read, you know, but we are closer than ever. You know, we're rounding the bend. I can almost see it. So, Peter, feeling stoked on book 9. Although not book 9's a serious book, but stoked from this production point of view.
Do you guys have plans to do the Esselmont books, or are you just kind of doing the main 10, as I guess some people refer to it?
Yeah. I try not to use the main. Sometimes I think we intro the show with using a main, but people definitely use it. We actually I discussed the Esselmont books with YouTuber Iskar Jarak and his 6 novels of the Malazan Empire. And they are the ones I've read outside of this series. And then I also read the recently released God Is Not Willing, and that was covered on the show. The Path to Ascendancy and Carcanas books have yet to be touched. And there is, I would say, various production questions in regards to how they are to be approached, and they are ongoing series as well. So there's a whole big world if you're trying to get out there, you know? And yeah, it's exciting. Do you guys have interest in reading the outside of this Book of the Fallen stuff?
I mean, for me, absolutely. I guess my big question is, and I'm not worried about like chronological order or anything like that, but from what I've looked into, like the novellas, is that what you were talking about? The Karak? I can't even remember I don't even know how to say that word.
There is a sequel and a prequel trilogy. So the sequel trilogy just begun, and the prequel trilogy has 2 books, and then the third one is forthcoming, and that is the Carcanas trilogy.
What are the novellas?
The Tales of Botulin and Corbel Broach.
That's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I mean, like, you know, I know that there are books out there where they like basically it's one book with 3 or 4 of them.
Sure. They're the collected tales ones, yeah.
Yeah. But dang, are those books hard to find. Like,
oh my God.
Individually.
It's so, I would love to learn about it, but it seems like whatever print copies of them must have been at a really limited run, because all of the art is very funky looking, and then they must have only had so many. So I do not know what the publishing history of those novellas are, but whenever I see them online, it's like one weird piece of art, and it costs like $300 or something insane.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I would like to, essentially read it all, but I mean, I guess.
For the record, those novellas are mostly also available on ebook. So I don't know if you use those, but that is how I read them. Since maybe I have one, because the collected ones get printed in sometimes, and they're more easily accessible than the individual novella ones.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I hope I'm not telling you stuff you already know. I don't know.
No. It's nice to get some clarity, because, like, I guess I understand that they exist, but I don't necessarily know how they like attach to the main story, so to speak. Which the prequel and the sequel thing, like, that makes total sense. I understand Esselmont is just kind of like at the same time period, but just different characters and different events that somewhat relate. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to clarify, I use the word prequel and sequel, but I think I was just saying shorthand for like before and after.
No, fair. Yeah.
Just to clarify, and then what I would say is, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you guys were going to do it. I think the series totally works. Just reading those 10 and then exploring the other stuff. I personally read 3 or 4 of the Esselmonts interlocked with my read through of the main series, or the Book of the Fallen. And I found 1 or 2 of them I felt really enriched my experience. And then I read the other ones I felt like I was taking a total detour, and it wasn't adding to the Book of the Fallen, which is probably the thing I was most fixated on. So that was my experience. And, I know people have a lot of different thoughts. I don't know. I feel like what I read the most is people telling people to just read the 10 and then move on to other stuff. But I don't know. I don't really know. So have you guys thought about interlocking it, or do you think you're going to kind of do a whatever?
I don't know if we're far enough in the series to.
Oh, no, not at all.
Sure. We've talked about what we would do. And I feel like we're both open to doing either way, but I mean, we certainly haven't made a decision on it yet.
Yeah, I think the novella stuff is probably a different story, since it's like they're kind of their own little thing, and they're short. Novellas are like 100 pages or something. Where I think when I was going from novel to go read a total other novel, I don't know, there was something about it felt like a larger chunk of story. So I don't know, maybe novellas would be easier to dip into, but I don't know. I think anything works. So
yeah, and I mean, our thing is we're focusing on Malazan, but we still are doing other things as well too. So it's
sure,
that's kind of our quest, I guess. Is just keeping things open. But yeah, I don't know. We have talked about it, but I guess we'll just have to see once we get closer. I'm open to either, and I think you are too, Justin, right?
Oh yeah.
We'll just have to figure it out really once we get there.
Yeah. Well, and plus, just from a production standpoint, I guess that first decision, the first additional thing you could potentially read in the Malazan series doesn't even come up to book 3, and then it's like they're the novellas, and then the Fire Ice novel, if you're doing chronologically, would come after that. So I think you even have time to think about how you guys want to do it. So
all right, yeah. I feel like chronological order is usually something for me personally, something that I would do through like a second read through. Like publication order would be something that I would do through my first read through, just based on the fact that more often than not, 90% of the time, that is what someone is going to suggest you do.
Yeah.
I align with that.
So, yeah. I mean, I buy books so that I have them on my shelf so that I can read them again. So,
Not me. I buy books, keep them on the shelf to impress the house guests. Never touch them. Never touch them. Not even once. Okay.
There are two trains of thought there, so those are the only two. I feel like there's not really an in between at all.
I must have missed something.
Oh, I was just saying. Yeah, Peter said he buys books to have them on the shelf to impress guests. You buy them to read them. There's not really a middle ground there. It's either one or the other.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe
and,
you could...
and let the record show, I'm not joking. I've never read a book in my life, and you'll never make me. Okay. Thank you very much.
I don't know. We could read to the guests, right? It's an in between.
Interesting idea.
I mean, if you want to chase your guests out of the house, let me just read chapter 4 of Deadhouse Gates to you. I am leaving. Goodbye.
Okay. Embarrassingly, I recently moved in with a new roommate, and on several occasions, I have read them full passages of chapters of Dust of Dreams. So, God bless him for listening to me. Just share some pieces of Dust of Dreams I've been enjoying. So, he hasn't left yet. So maybe the guests would like it. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The old school entertainment. You take away the TVs and the movies and the cell phones.
Kids these days and their screens. They should get back into reading each other books.
Right, especially at parties.
Cool. Well, do we have anything else there, Justin?
No, I guess we can, not make this a Minnesota goodbye. So, yeah.
Peter, it was awesome having you. I really appreciate you taking, and I'm sure Justin does too. I'm not going to speak for him. I know he does, but 2+ hours of your time here to chat with us, and it was a really good time. I had a lot of fun.
No, the pleasure's totally mine. Thank you so much for inviting me on the show. And it was great listening to your podcast, and it was great chatting today. You're great guys, and it was great talking about Malazan. So
awesome.
Well, hopefully, maybe once we get into Memories Ice, maybe we can do this again here. Make it kind of a reoccurring thing here.
Yeah, give me a ring. I'll parachute on out.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you so much again, Peter.
Yeah, thanks so much. And are you going to end the recording or the call? Like, is this goodbye, or?
I mean, I can stop recording and we can still chat.
Okay. Well, the only reason I ask is because one time we were interviewing Steven Erikson and he left before we ended the thing, and then we said goodbye on mic, and then he left when we actually were just trying to say a fake goodbye.
Got it.
And we were quite shook. But we got it. It all worked out. But so I guess if this is our actual goodbye, then thank you so much. And I had a blast talking. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great holiday and enjoy the rest of Deadhouse Gates.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.